So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728 and Jewish success. For some reason, I remember, I was I read an article about Seth Rogen was mentioning the fact that he had an unpleasant conversation, or maybe he was just experienced an unpleasant anti-Semitic Jewish rant, he said, from Eddie Griffin about the fact that Jews, or the idea that Jews ruled Hollywood or controlled Hollywood and he couldn't get a movie made and da-da. Anyway, I'm trying to figure out why Jewish people have been so successful. Like in the richest people in the world, according to Forbes, the Forbes 400, they make up or they made up between 19 and 30 something percent of those people. Larry Ellison, Mark Zuckerberg, I think there's this hotel guy named Adelson. There's a Greek guy, I think he's Jewish as well. Anyway, also in the top 10 richest people, according to a 2019 article, um, it was said that half of those people in the top 10 richest people in the world were Jewish. Now that's a crazy number considering that Jewish people are less than 0.02% of the population of the world. Some crazy small number like that. So how could it be that Jewish people are so overrepresented amongst really wealthy people? Now, people have mentioned, I've looked at articles written by, a Jewish rabbi. He went on to say that a lot of Jewish people, I guess because of, the Second World War and all of the abuse that Jewish people have taken, they look at anybody who mentions Jewish success as an anti-Semite. Somebody who is basically playing up to the Jewish stereotypes, um, and that's what a lot of Jewish people believe. But he's like, no, it's a fact. It's true. Why are we denying this? And but anyway, my point of view is I'm trying to figure out why for real myself. And as far as I can tell, um, what I have decided is that it definitely does not hurt that the wealthiest people in the world uh, tend to be Christian. That would be America's Christian, Europe is Christian, and yeah, that's developed world is primarily Christian and wealthy. And being Christian, it means that your biggest heroes are Jews. If you want to look for, if you feel that you are persecuted, you may think about Moses, who led his people to the promised land. If you want to think about the oldest person in the world ever, you're going to probably think about Methuselah from the Bible. If you want to think about the most loyal servant of the Lord, you're going to think about Job. If you're going to think about, let me see, the strongest man in the world, maybe you might think Hercules, but there's Samson. If you want to think about, a king, a powerful and great king, you would think of King David. People wear the Star of David around their necks. Of course, Jesus himself was Jewish. And he, if you think about the person who raised themselves from the dead, or the person who performed the most miracles, that's Jesus. He's Jewish. So if you are in any way, shape, or form someone who follows Christianity, um, most of the people that you would encounter, well, Methuselah is not Jewish. Let me just say that for the record. Job is not specifically Jewish either, but they're in the Bible. And um, if somebody's going to confuse the Jewish people, you're going to think, well, Methuselah was Jewish, you know? Um, you're going to think everybody in the Bible was Jewish. Of course, that's not the case because Adam and Eve are not Jewish and their kids were not all Jewish. It's just one special people, the chosen people, are Jewish people. Of course, it does not help that at the end of the Bible, the quote unquote bad guys, as perceived by many people, would have been Jewish people, forgetting the fact, of course, that Paul, who wrote most of uh, the New Testament, is Jewish. You know, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all those people, all the apostles who suffered. I don't understand that, right? Suffered at the hands of the Jews. Everybody concerned was Jewish. So, um, when you disparage Jews, you're disparaging Jesus, Paul, all of the apostles, everybody. So I don't get that one. And when you have an idea that, oh, Jewish people are conniving and money hungry, is that Jesus? You thinking Paul and all of these other people were Jewish as well? Were they money hungry and crafty? And I don't, that's just crazy. When you really think about it, that people just think, well, the good guys, they aren't Jews, but they were, so that's just nuts. Anyway, as much as there is that ridiculous idea of differentiating who is Jewish and who is not towards the end of the Bible that many Christians seem to have ridiculously, um, and even Muslims, why is there any problem between Christians, well, not Christians and Muslims necessarily, Christians and Jews, but Muslims and Jews? I mean, the Muslim people and Muslims, why is there like a problem with it? Well, I understand what the problem with Israel is, I suppose, because um, I guess it's like some people who are Jewish people who came back to Israel and are um, in possession of Jerusalem, which is supposed to be a holy city, then yeah, I guess it gets contentious because everybody wants this holy city because everybody's following the Old Testament that everybody believes in. So, but it's all pretty, well, it's pretty ridiculous, but at the same time, it's kind of like a family that wants to kill each other because everybody wants to be in charge. But my point that I have really strayed away from is that partially, I think, some of the success that Jewish people would encounter in life has nothing to do with them or anything that they've done. I think that if you know that, Abraham, he's Jewish, um, King David, he's a Jewish king, and you know that Israel himself is that Jacob, who was the son of Isaac? Right, and he changed his name to Israel, and that's why um, Israelites are named after Jacob, who changed his name. Anyway, there are many, there are, innumerable minorities all over the world who do not enjoy the same success as Jewish people. And I cannot imagine that having a you having your people represented in a ubiquitous um, publication. Is that what we can call the Bible? Well, yeah, it's a publication because it's translations of it. And those translations have copyright and all this other stuff. So, yes, being in having your people represented as the heroes in the most, I don't know if I should say ubiquitous, because ubiquitous already means everywhere, or it's supposed to, as far as I know. But being represented as the heroes, anytime you go to church, probably if you hear, and that's, I don't know, how do the, Muslims feel about reading about the Jews in the Old Testament and then hating the Jews on the other hand? Well, obviously, a lot of Christians have no problems with the same thing. So, but my point is, at the end of the day, is that if Hindus were in the book, the Bible, I think they might have a good chance of being overrepresented in success in the world. Because I was really surprised, and this is something that I wanted to mention before. I went looking at some point to see how many Jews there were in the world, and I was just mind blown that they are 0.02% of the population, like 15 million people in the whole world that are Jews. And yet there's all this talk, anti-Semitism is a whole word. What's a word for being, against Muslims? There isn't even a specific word. There's a whole word, anti-Semite. What, seeing as, Semite, I don't know that that just refers to Jews. That might also refer to people of that area. I have to look that up myself. But it's like 15 million people, and everybody is making such a big fuss about the Jews and hating the Jews and coming up with all of these different, I guess in the past it would have been what we call memes, these stereotypes and all of this stuff, and then wanting to kill these people. It's crazy. It really is crazy. Um, because everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but many to most homes in the developed world have a copy of the Bible in it, and here are these stars. I think that's part of the reason why Jewish people are overrepresented in as successes, because I don't know exactly what it would have been like for Jewish people in, I imagine they grew up in the slums of America as well, coming from Europe, uh, living in the ghettos of Europe, but still being successful in Russia, as far as I know, to an extent, even though they were living in these impoverished areas. Um, yeah, I think it has significance. Don't get me wrong, I was reading something where basically they were saying that it was, the expression, those who can't teach, and those who can do, and those who can't teach. Well, apparently, being a Jew can be very expensive to follow up with learning Hebrew and I guess all of the different, the bar mitzvahs and all of the different trappings, I suppose, of following Judaism. So, what they were saying is that between 700 AD and 1200 AD, the number of Jews shrank from 5 million to like 1 million. Why? Because these they were persecuted a lot and killed and massacred and so on. But aside from that, a lot of Jews just stopped being Jewish because it was so difficult to um, keep up with what's necessary in order to be a proper Jew. And even in America right now, what they're saying is that a lot of devout Jews are also very poor in certain regions of America because uh, they have to make a lot of financial sacrifices in order to adhere to their faith. Um, so that is definitely one reason why the, let's say, remaining Jews are the cream of the crop, one might say. But at the same time, it does not explain the, you know, orders of magnitude. Like if Jewish people are either zero point 0.2 or 0.02% of the population of the world, when you get up to, Forbes 400, there might be one Jew, half of a Jew in that array, but for there to be 33%, I think if someone comes up with an idea or a business plan or whatever, and their name is Jewish, and there's another guy whose name is whatever else, I think people, even if they're anti-Semitic, are going to think maybe we should stick with the Jewish guy. Maybe there is that prejudice, I'm sure, but it's not a completely negative prejudice, especially when you've grown up hearing the stories of Samson and the wisest man in the world, King Solomon, and his father, King David, and the most devout man ever, Job, who is probably not Jewish, but he's in the book, and the oldest man in the world, Methuselah, and the strongest man in the world, Samson, and the guy who rose from the dead himself, Jesus, and did all these miracles, and all of his apostles are Jewish. And you can't go through, you know, weekend after weekend if you are a church-going Christian, and that does not also play a role in your head when you encounter someone who is Jewish. I can't imagine that the only thing that you come up with is that, okay, Jews are all um, greedy, money grubbing, etc. Those negative stereotypes cannot be the only thing that is nestled in the heads of people. And I think that a large amount of Jewish success does not have anything to do with what Jewish people have done. I think it's just, what is the word? Projecting. People are projecting their ideas of someone who is so and so Goldberg or so and so Stein, and there's this other person named John Smith, and they're thinking, okay, I could go with John Smith, or I could go with so and so Jackson, or I could go with so and so, I don't know, Lawrence, or I could go with a Goldberg or a Stein or what's Seinfeld. Hmm, they might know what they're doing. So that's my thought on that. Thanks for listening, if you did.